You speak to businesses and companies and leadership teams and employees and stuff. Without mentioning names, I don't want to put you on the spot, but have you gone and talked to a company that's been in trouble and then spoken to their team and then checked in on them after you've spoken to their leadership team? And what did that look like? Did you notice a noticeable change? Did they come to you and tell you that this has helped our organization out and our culture is much improved because of it?
You mean, does my work? I mean, sure. Here's the problem with my stuff. You got to do it. And I'm not anybody's, like, you know, mom or dad. I'm not going to do it for you. And I have a very laissez-faire approach of it. I once had a client, this is a bunch of years ago, that said, "What guarantee do I have that your stuff will work?" To which my answer was, none. Like, I'm giving you a tool. It's like a hammer. You can use it broadly or narrowly. You can build a table, you can build a house. It's the same tool. You can use it for marketing, you can use it to completely revitalize your entire culture. And even though I'm going to sell you the most beautiful hammer, I'm not going to guarantee the structural integrity of the house. Right? It's your business. You want to ignore all my stuff? Ignore it. I don't care. And if your business collapses, you know what happens to me? Nothing. Like, I don't mean to be cold about it. Like, of course I want the people I work with to do well, but it's not mine. It's theirs. And I take no emotional responsibility for the decisions they make. So yes, there are many people that I've had the pleasure of working with, some who worked for dysfunctional organizations, that went on the hard journey of completely changing the way they lead and completely revitalizing their culture, and it has great success. It's not because of me, it's because of them. Right? At the same time, there are many people who came in like, "What an amazing speech," and did nothing. You know, "Thanks, that was great," you know. And of course it's going to fail, you know? So I think that we have too much, especially in the consulting world or the design world, everybody's so paternalistic about it. And designers are famous for this, right? They get so personally offended when the client chooses the wrong thing. "Oh, they're such idiots. Don't they know we're trying to help them?" Or who cares? Like, it's their frickin' business, right? That's what you find. I've had that. Instead of arguing with somebody for them to make the right choice, because we genuinely want to help them, what I have found is if you push the accountability onto, because when we argue, we're taking accountability. This is better. This will help you. We're taking responsibility, accountability. But if we say, "Look, we've been doing this a bunch of years. We know more about design than you do. I'm telling you, for every reason that I can outline for you, why this will help you more. But if you don't want to do it, that's fine. It's your business. Do what you want." The minute you switch the accountability and put it all on them, amazingly, they're much more open to your opinion. Because now they're responsible.
One night, Chris had gone to bed. I'd been struggling. We still had all the same problems. We still had a lien on the house, still facing bankruptcy, still fighting like crazy. I was still unemployed. They still hadn't figured out, like, the solution yet for the business. And I was about to turn off the TV, and there on the TV, there was this rocket launching, and I thought, oh my gosh, that is it. I am going to launch myself out of bed like a rocket ship, like NASA, right here, had launched me out of that bed. And I'm going to move so fast that I don't think. I'm going to beat my brain. Now, here's a really interesting point. I talk a lot about your instincts and inner wisdom. And we can get into this a little bit later, but a lot of us talk about the fact that you have a gut feeling. But what all this research that I've done for the book and all the speaking that I do, what I've discovered that's fascinating is actually when you set goals, when you have an intention on something that you want to change about your life, your brain helps you. What it does is it opens up a checklist. And then your brain goes to work trying to remind you of that intention that you set. And it's really important to develop the skill, and I say that word purposefully, the skill of knowing how to hear that inner wisdom and that intention kicking in and leaning into it quickly. So for me, my brain saying, that's it, right there, move as fast as a rocket, Mel. I wanted to change my life. And I think most people that are miserable or that are really like dying to be great and dying to have more, we want to change. We want to live a better life. We want to create more for our families. We want to be happier. The desire is there. Again, it's about how do you go from knowledge to action. So the first thing in this story that's important is realizing that the answer was in me. And my mind was telling me, pay attention. Could have also been the bourbon. I mean, I had a couple of Manhattans that night. But anyway, the next morning, the alarm goes off, and I pretended NASA was there. It's the stupidest story. I literally went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I counted out loud, and then I stood up. And I'll never forget standing there in my bedroom. It was dark. It was cold. It was winter in Boston. And for the first time in 3 months, I had beaten my habit of hitting the snooze button. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, wait a minute. Counting backwards? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Well, the next morning I used it again, and it worked. The next morning I used it again, and it worked. The next morning I used it again, and it worked. And then I started to notice something really interesting. There were moments all day long, just like that 5-second moment in bed, where I knew, knowledge, what I should do. And if I didn't move within 5 seconds, my brain would step in and talk me out of it. Every human being has a 5-second window. Might even be shorter for you. You have about a 5-second window in which you can move from idea to action before your brain kicks into full gear and sabotages any change in behavior. Because remember, your brain is wired to stop you from doing things that are uncomfortable or uncertain or scary. It's your job to learn how to move from those ideas that could change everything into acting on them.
One of the functions of belief is taking action. We did a survey of about 2,000 top entrepreneurs, and we noticed that one of the things that people who win in that world have is a bias for action. If they have an inspiration, they act on it. I mean, how many of you have ever had a great idea, talked about it, thought about it, didn't do it, and then someone else did it and was successful, and you went, darn, I should have done that. Maybe it was buy that piece of property. You know, we all have that piece of property we wish we'd bought, you know. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at the idea that taking action is part of law of attraction. See, a lot of people think you can just sit in your room, meditate, visualize having the perfect car, the perfect house, the perfect relationship, and then it'll kind of just come to you. And I always say, unless you live at the bottom of a hill where there's a road, it's probably not going to be a Cadillac show up in your living room, right? So think about this. The last 6 letters of the word attraction spell what? A-C-T-I-O-N, action. Now, there's 2 kinds of actions that are critical. There's obvious actions. If you want a certain kind of car, you should go down and test drive it. You should find out how much it costs. You should see what it costs to maintain it. You should go, you know, I like to test drive a car 3 or 4 times, go down to the dealer, take a camera, stick my head out the window, say, take a picture of me, I'll be back to buy it. You know, put it up on my refrigerator, look at it every day. Eventually, you know, those kind of things produce car, right? Saving for it and so forth. But there are also things called inspired actions. All of a sudden, you get an inspiration to do something, and you didn't know what it was. You don't have a sense of, like, how is this rationally going to make sense for me to move forward in my life? I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, Dr. Ignatius Piazza, graduates chiropractic school. He wants to move to Monterey, near Pebble Beach, where the golf course is. And he gets there and he says to the local chiropractic association, I'd like to join you, I'd like you to help me get my practice started. And they said, we don't need any more chiropractors. We have 1 chiropractor for every 8 people in this area. It's too many. Now, he could have said, okay, let the external reality control his internal experience, but he didn't do that. He said, I'm going to think about this and visualize it and believe in it, and something will come that I will do. And what came to him to do was to take 6 months before he opened his office and put a pin where he wanted his office, and then concentric circles knock on every door in every neighborhood saying, "Hi, I'm a new doctor in town. Could I ask you a few questions? I'm starting this practice. Should I open from 5 till 9 in the morning, or should I be open from 5 until 9 at night for people who have 9 to 5 jobs? Which would be better? Should I advertise in this paper or that paper? Should I call it Ignatius Piazza Chiropractic or Chiropractic West?" And then his last question was, "If I have an open house, would you like to receive an invitation?" They said yes. He wrote it down. Now, over 6 months, he knocked on 12,500 doors, talked to 6,500 people, and gathered over 4,000 names of people who said, "Yes, I'd like an invitation to your open house." Now, when he opened his office 6 months later in a town that did not need another chiropractor, according to the professionals, his first month in practice, he netted $72,000. In his first year in practice, his gross income was over $1 million. I was giving a talk and mentioned this story just about 5 years ago, and this happened about 25 years ago. Someone said, "He knocked on my door." And he left his card. And 2 years later, I needed the chiropractor, and I called him. Because we work with people we know, we've had an experience with, right? So he trusted his intuition. He took action on it. Other people would say, "Oh, guess I can't have what I want." You got to be willing to take the action.